The room went silent the moment he asked it. One simple question that shattered the entire performance Bondi had been trying to hold together. Do you have evidence, yes or no? And in that split second, before she even opened her mouth, everyone watching knew exactly what was coming. Not clarity, not honesty, not the kind of confidence you'd expect from someone trying to run the most powerful law enforcement agency in the country. What came instead was hesitation, circles, deflection, anything except the truth. And that's when people realized this hearing wasn't just tense. It was revealing something much deeper. Something she couldn't hide behind prepared answers or polished talking points.
2020 presidential general election, you traveled to Philadelphia to appear alongside President Trump's then attorney, Rudy Giuliani. And together, you falsely asserted that President Trump had, quote, won Pennsylvania in that election. Now, I want to be clear, at that moment, there were still at least 1 million ballots left to be counted in Pennsylvania. Of course, President Biden went on to win the state by more than 80,000 votes. But in the following days, even after the results were clear, you continued to double down on the big lie, promoting falsehoods about election fraud and cheating without offering any actual evidence. And I remember it clearly because I served as California Secretary of State at the time, and I invited anybody associated with the Trump campaign who was making these claims to come forward with evidence of irregularities in the election or massive voter fraud. 4 years later, I still have seen none. So I ask you today, do you have any evidence of election fraud or irregularities in the 2020 election?
So, First Senator.
Yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
First Senator.
Do you have evidence, yes or no?
First Senator. I'm so sorry about the fires to you and Senator Schiff and what you're going through in your states. I have to say that.
I appreciate that. My clock is ticking, and I want to hear
all of our
your answer.
hearts go out to everyone in California for what you're facing right now. I'm glad you asked the question about Pennsylvania.
It's a yes or no question.
I was hoping
Do you have evidence,
someone
yes or
would.
no?
Senator, I was hoping you'd ask the question.
Do you have evidence, yes or no?
I traveled to Pennsylvania.
Do you have the evidence, yes or no?
I traveled, Senator, to Pennsylvania.
Okay. You're not answering my question. If you have no evidence to offer, let me ask you this. Will you now retract your previous statements that Trump won Pennsylvania in the 2020 election, yes or no?
Oh, Senator, I traveled to Pennsylvania, and let me tell you what I saw firsthand.
Yes or
no? I didn't talk about California because I was not in California. I talked about...
Yes or no? Last time I'm going to ask.
I talked about Pennsylvania because
Mr. Chair,
I was there.
I'm going to move on because she's clearly not
court
answering my
order
questions. And
to
I want to note, colleagues, for everybody, members of the committee and everybody watching, that the attorney who stood beside Mr. Giuliani was making very similar statements. And he has since been disbarred from multiple jurisdictions for making these false claims about the 2020 election in court. And like Mr. Giuliani, as you've noted today, you've taken an oath to uphold the Constitution just as an attorney. And now you're asking us to consider you to serve as the chief law enforcement officer in our country. So it's imperative, Ms. Bondi, that you subscribe to facts and evidence and not politically convenient conspiracy theories. Your job will be, your job will be to protect voters and election workers, not to undermine and dox them. Now, I know that earlier you agreed that Joe Biden is in fact president, but many of the president-elect's inner circle continue to spread the big lie about the 2020 election. Let me move on to a different topic.
Senator, you were speaking. May I speak? You cut me off when I was speaking. When I ask you the next question, you can speak, and I hope you answer, Ms. Bondi. Well, I'd like to answer the previous one, Senator.
When we met yesterday,
you pointed your finger at me and said you were speaking.
You did not seem to be familiar
let me answer my question. I'm not
going
to be bullied by you, Senator
the 14th
Padilla.
Amendment of the United States of America, which was deeply disappointing.
I guess you didn't want to hear my answer about
today
Pennsylvania.
After I gave an opportunity to study overnight. So can you tell me and this committee what the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment says?
Senator, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm not here to do your homework and study for you. If I am confirmed as Attorney General...
You're the one asking for a confirmation vote, ma'am.
Hey, you cut me off. Can I please finish?
What does the 14th Amendment say?
Senator, Senator, the 14th Amendment, we all know, addresses birthright citizenship. I've been a state prosecutor. I've been a state AG. I look forward to, even given your remarks today, working with you and the people of California if I am confirmed as the 87th Attorney General of the United States of America. I didn't take your homework assignment. I'm sorry. I was preparing for today.
So on the 14th Amendment, now you've testified repeatedly to this committee that you will uphold the laws of this country and defend the Constitution of the United States. Do you believe birthright citizenship is the law of the land, and will you defend it regardless of a child born in the United States, regardless of their parents' immigration status?
Senator, I will study birthright citizenship. I would love to meet with you regarding birthright citizenship.
Asking us to continue to serve as the Attorney General of the United States, and you still need to study the 14th Amendment of the Constitution? That is not helping me have more confidence in your ability to do this job. One other immigration-related question, I'll steer clear of the Constitution
I have one
and the
regarding
law.
that I'd like
Senator
to talk
Hirona
about.
asked you earlier, but I don't think you answered her question. Can you please tell us, do you agree with the statement that immigrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country, yes or no?
I did not say that.
I did not say that you said that. I'm asking if you agree with it, yes or no.
I did not say that.
Do you agree with it, yes or no?
My great-grandparents are immigrants.
Do you agree with it,
They
yes or no?
came here from Sicily
Do you agree
through
with it,
Ellis
yes or
Island
no?
when they were teenagers.
Do you agree with it, yes or no?
Senator, let me answer the question.
Yes or no? It's
My
real simple.
great-grandparents came here, immigrated to this country from Sicily, recently went and found each of their birth certificates. We are a nation made up of immigrants. Do I believe immigrants are poisoning our country? No, Senator.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I can't wait for the second round.
Same, Senator. Thank you.
Because the moment she refused that simple yes or no, the mask slipped, and what happened next exposed far more than anyone expected. She had walked into that chamber trying to brand herself as a fearless defender of the Constitution, someone who'd stand firm no matter who sat in the Oval Office. Strong, independent, unshakable. That was the story she wanted people to believe. But the second Senator Padilla pushed back, her whole strategy cracked open. The senator didn't come to play. He didn't care about her rehearsed speeches or polished charm. He cared about one thing, whether she could stand behind the truth when it mattered. And when he pressed her about the claims she made in Pennsylvania the day after the election, the air in the room shifted. She had traveled to Philadelphia at a critical moment, when millions of ballots were still uncounted. She stepped in front of cameras, stood shoulder to shoulder with political allies, and boldly declared a victory that didn't exist. Not a prediction, not a cautious statement, a declaration. And days later, when the numbers were clear, she didn't pull back. She didn't correct herself. She didn't clarify. Instead, she doubled down, repeating allegations that never had evidence behind them. So when Padilla confronted her directly, "Do you have any evidence of fraud or irregularities?" the question wasn't surprising. The real shock was her response, because she didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She didn't offer documents, data, reports, nothing. Instead, she dodged, pivoted, complimented the senator's state, even expressed sympathy for wildfires. Anything to run out the clock without giving an answer. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't courage. It was strategy, pure and simple. A way to protect the narrative she helped fuel without directly repeating it on the record. But Padilla wasn't about to let it go. He cut through every deflection with surgical precision, repeating the question in the exact same tone each time until her evasions became painfully obvious. And that's when he hit her with the follow-up, the moment that broke any illusion of neutrality. Will you now retract your previous statements that your candidate won Pennsylvania? Yes or no? Her answer? Another detour, another story, another attempt to bury the question under vague memories of her trip. She talked about what she saw firsthand, as if crowds and chaos were the same thing as proof. But she didn't retract. She didn't correct. And that silence said more than any speech she gave that day that it was a pattern, and once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Anytime the senator pressed her to take responsibility, her words began to stretch, soften, blur. She leaned on her experience as a state prosecutor. She leaned on her family history. She even leaned on emotional sympathy. What she never leaned on was evidence. And people watching at home felt that shift. You could almost hear the collective thought, If she can't answer this cleanly now, what happens when the stakes are even higher? But the hearing didn't stop there. Because Padilla noticed something else, something that bothered him even more. At multiple moments, she referred to the incoming president not as a future client, not as a leader she would work with professionally, but as her friend. A small detail, maybe, but in a hearing about independence, neutrality, and the ability to challenge abuses of power, that single word landed like a weight. Senators don't want the Attorney General to be someone's political ally. They need the Attorney General to stand alone when necessary, even against the most powerful person in the government. And that word, friend, was already raising alarms that S.O. Padilla pressed on the bigger issue beneath everything else. Was she actually capable of being independent? Or was she carrying old loyalties into a job that demanded absolute neutrality? And every time he pushed, she gave the same polished answer. She'd always defend the Constitution. She'd always uphold the law. She'd always put the country first. But the more she repeated it, the less convincing it sounded. Because words without clarity don't feel like conviction. They feel like cover. Then came the moment that took the hearing from tense to explosive. It wasn't about the election. It wasn't about Pennsylvania. It was about the Constitution itself. Padilla asked her a question that any Attorney General nominee should be able to answer without hesitation. What does the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment say? This wasn't trickery. It wasn't a pop quiz. It was the foundation of how we define who belongs in this country. Her answer? She refused. She smirked. She called it homework. The room froze. Because this wasn't just evasive, it was dismissive, almost mocking. She eventually gave a vague explanation that the amendment addresses birthright citizenship, but even that sounded like a reluctant guess. And again, people watching weren't hearing confidence. They were hearing uncertainty, or worse, avoidance. Why avoid a constitutional question unless you're trying not to reveal your real position? Padilla saw the opening and pushed harder. Do you believe birthright citizenship is the law of the land? Her response stunned the room. She said she would study it. Study it? For someone asking to run the Justice Department, the idea that she needed time to review one of the most fundamental protections in American law set off alarms. If she wasn't prepared to give a straight answer in a confirmation hearing, what would she do in the heat of a national crisis? And then came the immigration moment that turned the room electric. Padilla asked if she agreed with the statement that immigrants were poisoning the blood of the country, a hateful phrase that shocked people across the political spectrum. Instead of immediately rejecting it, she insisted on clarifying that she didn't say it. Again and again, only after relentless pressure did she finally say the words, "No, Senator." But by then, the damage was done. Because in a role where moral clarity is essential, hesitation becomes a message all on its own. Her delay made it seem as if she were calculating, weighing political reactions before answering something that should have been instinctive. By the time Padilla finished, the hearing had turned into something much bigger than a political grilling. It became a real-time display of how a nominee handles pressure, truth, conflict, responsibility, and the answers she wouldn't give spoke louder than the ones she did. Watching her dodge, deflect, and redirect left a lingering question. If this is how she performs under questioning, what happens when she must confront real power, real corruption, real threats to democracy? Because leadership isn't about speeches. It's not about charm. It's not about positioning yourself next to the right people at the right moment. Leadership is about clarity when clarity is inconvenient. Accountability when accountability is uncomfortable. Truth when truth could cost you. And in that hearing, clarity never came. Accountability never came. Truth never came. All that remained was a pattern, one that made senators on the committee lean back in their chairs, exchange glances, and wonder whether she was ready for a job that demands more than political instinct. It demands courage. Some viewers thought she was carefully navigating a hostile room. Others believed she was protecting a narrative that has already been debunked, discredited, and dismantled by courts across the country. And online, a new conversation erupted. This hearing wasn't about one election claim. It was about whether someone who repeatedly avoided direct answers could be trusted to prosecute, investigate, and defend the laws with fairness and independence. The moment the hearing ended, clips began circulating everywhere. People replaying her hesitation, her deflections, her refusal to retract old statements. And as those moments spread, so did the questions. Not just about her, but about the future of the Justice Department, the role of truth in leadership, and whether political loyalty is becoming more valuable than constitutional clarity. Oh, what do you think? Was her performance strategy or avoidance, confidence or calculation? And most importantly, do you believe someone who struggled to answer basic questions can fairly run the nation's most powerful legal institution? Let us know down below in the comments. And if you want more deep dive breakdowns like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a like to support the channel. Your engagement helps us bring you more stories that matter. Stay tuned, because this conversation is only just beginning.